My friend Red Stahl has cancer. I went to high school with he and his wife, Chris Ann. Chris Ann was the sweetest person you'd ever want to know, and Red always had a smile on his face. He's still got a smile on his face, especially when he's looking at Chris Ann. They looked forward to retiring and spending time with each other, with their children, with their grandchildren, but that all got cut short way too fast with Red's diagnosis of terminal cancer. They've been fighting this disease for over 3 years. And through it all, I've never seen either one of them complain. What I have seen them do is consistently help others. Whether it's a food drive, raising money for a charity, or reaching out to call somebody just to see how they're doing or help them through a hard time, their focus is always on the welfare of other people. Watching them help others while they're going through the hardest time of their lives really got to me. I felt like God put it on my heart to ask them if I could interview them and we could share their story with other people as a message of hope. We met at their house outside of Houston, Texas, and I started by asking him about the worst memory of his childhood.
I guess the worst memory was, learning that my mom got sick and life was really beginning to take a turn that would not come back until after she passed away.
Talk about how you dealt with your mom's diagnosis.
I knew what cancer was, but I just didn't know the impacts of it. Her stuff happened all very quickly. She got sick, she had surgery, she went on the chemo. Everything was about what was going on with her, and her personality changed and became, just a tough person to be around. But she passed away when I was 20, so it just kind of went downhill the whole time. There was never a time when she was well.
Red and Chris Ann always liked each other, but they were never single at the same time. And finally in 2007, Red's best friend ran into Chris Ann and found out she was single.
About a week later, I got an email address. So I immediately said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I got an email back the next day. And we emailed 10 times a day, every day. So we met for lunch. And that was it.
That was it.
A year after that, we got married.
That's right.
And here we are.
Their life together felt like a wonderful dream that at long last had come true. But just 4 years later, Red and Chris Ann found themselves in the nightmare of their lives.
We were out on the back patio talking, which is typically what we did at the time. And she mentioned that she felt something on her left side. And I was like, okay, well, we got to get in immediately. We got to get in right away and find out what's going on. Of course, that took me back to the time when my mother was sick. Long story short, they got us to MD Anderson. She was diagnosed. This was probably at the end of October, first part of November of 2013.
And I can only imagine, you guys had waited really a lifetime to bring your lives together. And now you've got this surreal, beautiful existence. But then you get hammered pretty quick with this. It had to be so scary.
For me, it was an instant fear of losing my wife, and it took me right back to my mom.
Red watched the love of his life go through treatments and suffer in the same way he had seen his mother when he was a young man.
You go through things as a caregiver about wondering if you're doing the right thing or saying the right thing. And that's the thing, she doesn't remember, but I remember her balled up on the couch, sobbing for 2 or 3 hours at a time, and I'm just sitting there not knowing what the hell to do because I'm the person that fixes everything. I'm the guy that knows how to get you out of a jam or how to manage a crisis. But there was nothing I could do for her, and it was frightening.
So Red wrote a book, Medically Unaffected, that chronicled his journey through cancer with his mother and then with Chris Ann.
Yeah, basically, it begins with being on the patio and having her tell me. And I kind of go back to what happened with our family back when my mom got sick and how that affected us. and then back to kind of the present day of, what she was going through and what I was observing, and what my feelings were. Why was God doing this to us? All of those questions that you have when you go through a tough time like that. And then coming out on the other side of it.
One of the messages of the book was about when you have a loved one, a friend, someone you know that's going through a tough time, whether it's cancer, a chronic illness, a death, don't be afraid to reach out to them. Let them know you're thinking about them, you're praying for them. Give them a little support, because we all need it, especially in the tough times.
Something as simple as a text that says, hey, we're praying about you and thinking about you, we'll be in touch, or, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just if you let somebody know that you're thinking about them, you have no idea the messages that I did get, whether it was on Messenger or text or a phone call, somebody thinking about you means the world.
In February of 2017, Red published a second book, Discovering Faith, My Spiritual Journey. It's a poignant and powerful story about finding God and trusting Him in both our triumphs as well as our pain.
Red didn't know then how much his faith was getting ready to be tested in April of that same year.
My doctor called me and he said, hey, Red, you've got a problem. He said, your hemoglobin is at about half the level it should be. He said, I've got you scheduled to go in to have a blood transfusion. And then 2 days later after my transfusion, I had the colonoscopy and an endoscopy, and there it was, colon cancer. Of course, I had a CT, and then I had a PET scan, and it revealed that it had spread to the liver and spread to my lung. So I'm diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer.
Right off the bat?
Right off the bat, because it had spread to distant organs. That's what stage 4 is.
Okay.
And so I immediately began chemo, and went through the hell of chemo for 6 treatments. And then in September of 17, I had colon and liver surgery at the same time. So they went in, and she went in and removed 25% of my colon, all laparoscopically. And then the liver surgeon went in and took 10% of my liver laparoscopically. So I went back on chemo, and I finished my chemo on New Year's Eve, 2017. And rang the bell and did all that stuff. The following September, when I got scanned again, I went down to do my scan. They showed something had popped back up in the lung. So my lung surgeon calls me and she says, PET scan revealed that you've got a pretty good sized spot in your liver in a different location. So that was devastating. I mean, it was just like, I just couldn't breathe. Went back on chemo again, but different kind of chemo. I was supposed to do 12, I could only do 10. I mean, I was to the point to where I had tremors. I
didn't even know him hardly.
My memory was toast. There were times when I would start talking, telling somebody something, and then I would just go blank. Yeah, it got really bad. And at that point, I was needing to be on a walker because my mobility was terrible. I was extremely weak. And then in December, I have an allergic reaction to the chemotherapy, which causes me to stop breathing. She was with me and pulled the string, and it was just the most bizarre. I mean, that was the only time in my life that I truly felt like this is it. I'm done. It was very scary. So really, I mean, where I'm at today, I've made it clear to my doctor. He offered me some other chemo options, and the side effects, they all mention death. You can
6 times.
6 or 7 times it mentioned death and can blow a hole in your gastro tract, and so I'm just like, they're not going to do anything good for me anyway. So I'm just going to enjoy the quality of life I've got. So, he's given me about 6 to 12 months. And so, I'm just gonna keep working. I'm gonna enjoy my grandson. I'm gonna enjoy my wife and my kids and my friends and do interviews with my friends.
God ultimately writes the story of our lives, but sometimes we get so attached to what we think our own version should be. But when things don't happen that way, we become angry and bitter and resentful. Have you ever had any of those feelings?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first got this, I was ticked off big time. I think my faith kind of softened that a lot.
Yes.
Pretty quickly afterwards. I think the thing that scared me the most was getting it in the liver.
Yes.
Because the liver's a tough place, and it's proven to be something that is not going to work out for me. But yeah, all that kind of made me pretty angry and pretty bitter, and I wondered why, and it's helped me a lot to deal with this through faith. And so now, I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed because there's some things that I'm not going to get to do. I'm not going to get to see my grandson grow up. I'm not going to get to have another grandkid. I'm not going to get to walk my other daughter down the aisle whenever that time comes for her. I'm not going to get to celebrate, a 20th anniversary with my wife. I'm not going to get to retire. I've always wanted to retire from work, and have a retirement party.
Can you tell us how focusing on the well-being of others has ministered to you? What has that done for you? Because I think that that's a coping mechanism that a lot of people don't look at. It's real easy and I think very natural for us to get angry, for us to get upset about our circumstances. But the problem with that is when we get stuck in that place. I think it's okay to feel that, and I think it's important to feel that, but don't stay there. Use that to kind of propel you into something better.
I think it's important to reach out to people. I think it's therapeutic. It makes that person feel not so lonely, I think. It's just what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to serve other people. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned through faith.
We think sometimes there's a misconception that you become a Christian and it's sunshine and roses and everything, no matter, you do all these good things and all these good things are going to happen to you, and that is not the case. But I want you to tell me, what have you gained through what most people would say, there's nothing good, this is all bad. And I know that that's not the way you think. Tell me what you've gained, what both of you have gained through what you've been through.
If someone would have told me in September of 2013, Red, here's what you get to go through for the next 7 years, I would have said, take me to the vet and have them put me down.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that I have the wherewithal to handle that. I wouldn't think that I could have done it, and we've done it. And I think I'm better for it. I'm stronger. I know that I can truly handle things. Again, I have to remind myself that what we've been through is nothing compared to what other people have been through that I've seen walk through the doors of MD Anderson. If you want a reality check, go to MD Anderson downtown, walk inside those big double doors, turn to your right and sit in one of those chairs for 2 hours and watch the thousands of people that come through that door. It'd be a million stories, and it makes you feel like what you have is about that big. And that's the truth. And God was the one that showed me that through this.
And
I think that might be difficult for some people to understand, but I think anybody who has either been through this type of thing or who is a believer understands that God will give you these things to better yourself. You know, he didn't give me cancer because he doesn't like me.
Right.
He gave me cancer to make me a better person. And I really think I have become a better person through this. And I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing until I can't.
I want to acknowledge God's timing in this, because it was, you know, you two came together and you had enough time to kind of get your family settled and everybody to get acquainted and to be comfortable and trust and love each other. And then this monster hits, but you had a foundation to go back to. Mm-hmm. So I think if it had come any earlier, it would have been a whole lot harder.
I don't know what I would have done without him. Every time, what I remember about my cancer is every time I opened my eyes, he was there. And he was my rock. I had all kinds of help and assistance from my girls and great communication with the boys. But Red is my rock. And I don't think he understands that. I rely on him. We're both very independent people, but we have become interdependent. And somehow I find that very intimate between a husband and wife. And I like that. And something I would like to add here, I feel it's very important and heartfelt, is that God let me have cancer. I didn't get cancer. He let me have cancer because my husband was going to need me. He let me suffer the travails of the nausea, the pain, loss of independence, which is devastating, memory loss, affectionately called chemo brain. Things like that I experienced thoroughly, and I was very confident in diving in to help him immediately. I didn't let him fail or fall, and I won't. I'm so grateful from the bottom of my heart to have had cancer, to have experienced what I did, because he means the world to me, and I won't let him fall. And I know there are people who watch this video and hear what I'm saying will understand and hopefully help them. I'm so sorry.
I know that God was responsible for having us reconnect, in that I was able to move back to Houston, and I was there for her when she had cancer, and she was there for me when I had cancer. One thing I know for 100% sure is that if we had not reconnected, we would not be here today. And I think that's just part of God's perfect timing, part of his plan. And I 100% believe that he brought us together for that reason.
What do you want to share with someone that's dealing with a chronic illness or a terminal disease?
If you have a terminal illness like I do, and you know that your time is not long, find your foundation. Find the good things that you have going on in your life. And if there's something you want to do, go do it if you can, if you're able. If you need to make amends or forgive, do that. Don't go out with a bitter heart. Don't go out with things left unsaid. Make sure your slate is clean.
As a young man, Red watched his mother die of cancer after she suffered for 6 long years.
4 years after marrying the woman he had loved since high school, his wife was diagnosed with cancer. They fought their way through that battle, and then Red got cancer.
So often, the story of our lives does not turn out the way we plan.
When we feel blindsided by events that shatter our world, it's understandable and even natural to become angry and bitter. Sometimes we want to shake our fist at God and remind Him how terribly cruel and unfair things are, how we don't deserve what we are going through.
But the truth is, in the Bible, Jesus tells us that here on earth we'll have many trials and sorrows, but to take heart because He's overcome the world.
When we put our hope in people and possessions, sooner or later, we will always be disappointed and hurt.
But then we have the opportunity to turn toward the one who will never leave us or forsake us.
The one who loved us so much that He left heaven, came to earth, and allowed Himself to be persecuted and crucified at the hands of His creation. God not only knows our pain, but He has experienced pain on a level we could never comprehend. Red and Chris-Ann are making a very intentional decision not to focus on the pain of this life, but rather to shift their gaze toward their Creator.
Through Jesus, they're experiencing peace in the middle of one of life's toughest storms, and they're sharing their experience as a message of hope for others. As they put their trust in the Lord, they're finding light in the darkness.